Before Bellerophon became the rider of Pegasus, before he faced the fire-breathing Chimera, he was a man already shadowed by danger. In Greek mythology, glory rarely begins in peace. It begins with exile, with accusation, with a task meant to kill. Bellerophon was young, noble, and gifted. But like many heroes of the ancient world, he stepped into legend through misfortune. A bloodstain lay behind him. A king's suspicion lay before him. And somewhere beyond the reach of ordinary men, a winged horse waited beneath the open sky. His story would become one of the greatest in all Greek myth. It would bring together a cursed letter, a monster of flame, the favor of the gods, and the terrible truth that even heroes may fall when pride rises too high. This is the story of Bellerophon, the man who rode Pegasus, and who reached too close to heaven. Bellerophon was connected to Corinth, a city rich with horses, bronze, sea roads, and noble houses. Some called him the son of Glaucus. Others whispered that Poseidon himself was his true father. In myth, such uncertainty matters. For a hero born between mortal lineage and divine possibility always stands close to danger. Bellerophon grew in a world where horses were symbols of rank, speed, and power. He learned courage early. He learned pride as well. He had the look of a man whom others expected to become great. And that expectation can be a blessing. It can also be a trap. For when people see a hero before he has become one, he may begin to believe that greatness already belongs to him. Still, Bellerophon was not yet ruined. He was young. He was capable. He was standing at the beginning of his road. But one act, whether accident or violence, would drive him out of his first life forever. The old stories do not all agree on the crime that changed Bellerophon's life. Some say he killed a man named Bellerus. Some say he killed his own brother. Some say the death was accidental. Others leave the wound unexplained. But the result is clear. Blood had been shed. And in the ancient Greek world, blood was not simply washed away. It carried pollution. It followed the killer. It disturbed the balance between mortals, gods, and the dead. So Bellerophon had to leave Corinth. He could not simply remain and pretend that nothing had happened. He needed purification. He needed a king to receive him and cleanse the stain. Thus he left the city of horses behind. He crossed into another kingdom, carrying with him both guilt and hope. He did not yet know that the second danger would be worse than the first. Bellerophon came to the court of King Pegasus. There, according to sacred custom, he was received. The king purified him. The stain of blood was ritually cleansed. Hospitality placed a bond between guest and host. In the Greek world, such a bond was not light. It was watched by Zeus. To harm a guest was dangerous. To betray a host was dangerous. For a time, Bellerophon seemed safe. He had left one trouble behind. He had found shelter beneath a royal roof. But royal houses are full of hidden rooms. And sometimes the true danger is not the spear at the gate. It is the desire that moves silently through the palace. In that court, the queen saw Bellerophon. And from that moment, the hero's path bent toward disaster. The wife of Pegasus is named differently in different traditions. Some call her Sthenibia. Others call her Antia. But in every telling, she becomes a turning point in Bellerophon's fate. She saw the young hero. She desired him. And she tried to draw him into betrayal. Bellerophon refused. He would not dishonor the king who had purified him. He would not stain the sacred bond of hospitality. For once, the hero's pride did not lead him into wrong. It held him upright. But rejected desire can turn bitter. The queen's longing became anger. Her anger became accusation. She went to Pegasus and claimed that Bellerophon had tried to violate her. The lie entered the king's heart like poison. Pegasus believed her. Or perhaps he wanted to believe her. And now the guest he had received under sacred law became a man he wished to destroy. Pegasus faced a problem. Bellerophon was his guest. He could not kill him openly without violating the law of hospitality. So he chose a colder path. He wrote a message to another king. That king was Iobates of Lycia, the father of the queen. The message was sealed. Bellerophon was told to carry it. He did not know what it contained. He believed he was acting as a trusted messenger. But inside the letter was a command for his own death. The words were simple in meaning. Kill the bearer. So Bellerophon left the court of Pegasus with death in his hands. He crossed the sea and roads toward Lycia. He carried the royal message close. He carried his innocence with him as well. And the gods watched as the hero walked unknowingly into a trap. Lycia lay far from the first wounds of Bellerophon's story. It was a land of mountains, valleys, and old kingdoms. There, King Iobates received him. The king welcomed the stranger. He offered food. He offered rest. He honored the laws of hospitality. For 9 days, according to some tellings, Bellerophon was treated as a guest. Only after the bond of welcome had been made did Iobates open the letter. Then he read the hidden command. Kill the bearer. Now Iobates faced the same sacred problem as Pegasus. He could not murder a guest whom he had already received. But he could send him against death. He could give him a task no mortal was expected to survive. And in Lycia, such a task was waiting. A monster ravaged the land. Its name was Chimera. The Chimera was no ordinary beast. It was a nightmare made flesh. In the old descriptions, it had the body and head of a lion. From its back rose the head of a goat. Its tail was a serpent. And from its mouth came fire. It burned fields. It devoured herds. It haunted the high places of Lycia. Men who climbed against it did not return. The monster belonged to the older, wilder side of myth. It was kin to terror. kin to chaos, kin to the forces heroes were born to face, and often born to die against. Iobates gave Bellerophon the command. Destroy the Chimera. The order sounded like honor, but it was meant as execution. Bellerophon understood the danger. No mortal warrior could simply walk up a mountain and fight flame with flesh. He needed something beyond ordinary courage. He needed a miracle with wings. Pegasus had been born from the blood of Medusa. When Perseus severed the Gorgon's head, the winged horse sprang into the world, bright and impossible. He was no common creature. He belonged to the spaces between sea foam, divine blood, storm, and sky. Many desired him. Few could approach him. Bellerophon was told that he might find Pegasus near the sacred spring of Pyrene. But finding the winged horse was not the same as mastering him. So Bellerophon went to a holy place. There, he slept beside an altar. In the silence of night, Athena came to him in a dream. The goddess of wisdom and war did not hand him a sword. She gave him something subtler. A golden bridle. When Bellerophon awoke, the bridle was there. Not imagined. Not symbolic. Real in his hands. The goddess had opened the way. Now the hero had to meet the skyborn horse. At the fountain of Pyrene, Pegasus came to drink. The water was still. The night was clear. The winged horse lowered his head, bright against the darkness. Bellerophon approached with care. No shout. No sudden movement. No foolish rush of strength. He held the golden bridle given by Athena. The horse lifted his head. For a moment, man and miracle faced each other. Pegasus was power without obedience. Freedom with wings. The open sky in living form. Bellerophon stepped closer. The bridle flashed in the moonlight. And by the favor of the goddess, he placed it upon Pegasus. The impossible became possible. The winged horse accepted him. Bellerophon mounted. The ground fell away. And for the first time, the hero rose into the air. Below him lay the world of men. Above him opened the realm he would one day desire too much. To ride Pegasus was not like riding any horse of earth. There was no road. No track. No dust beneath the hooves. There was only wind. Bellerophon had to learn balance in the open air. He had to trust the beat of wings. He had to feel the movement of clouds and height. Below him, rivers became silver lines. Forests became shadows. Mountains rose and fell like waves of stone. The fear of falling was always near. But so was wonder. For a brief time, Bellerophon was exactly where a hero should be. Between mortal danger and divine favor. Between earth and heaven. He did not yet try to command the gods. He only accepted their help. And with Pegasus beneath him, he turned toward the burning mountain where the Chimera waited. Bellerophon did not meet the Chimera on the ground. That would have been death. He took to the sky. Pegasus carried him above the monster's reach. Below, the Chimera roared. Fire burst from its mouth. The flames lit the rocks red. The serpent tail twisted. The goat head cried out from its back. The lion body leapt and clawed at empty air. Bellerophon circled above it. He watched. He waited. He learned the rhythm of the beast. Some tellings say he shot arrows from above. Others say he fixed lead to the end of his spear. When the Chimera breathed fire, the lead melted in its throat and choked the monster from within. However the details are told, the meaning remains. Strength alone did not win the battle. Height, patience, skill, and divine aid did. The hero of the ground had become a hunter of the sky. And the monster of flame was about to fall. Bellerophon drove the attack home. Pegasus plunged through smoke and heat. The Chimera reared upward. Its flame brightened the air. The hero struck. The monster convulsed. Its fire became a choking blaze. Its roar broke into ruin. Then the great body crashed against the stones. The lion fell. The goat fell. The serpent tail lashed once more, then stilled. The mountain, which had known terror, grew quiet. Bellerophon looked down upon the dead Chimera. He had survived the task meant to kill him. More than that, he had conquered one of the most terrible monsters in Greek myth. When he returned to Lycia, the people saw him not as a condemned stranger, but as a hero. King Iobates saw him too. And the king was troubled. For the man he had sent to death had come back alive, writing a miracle. Iobates did not yet reveal the secret of the letter. He did not confess the command of Pegasus. Instead, he tested Bellerophon again. If the Chimera had not killed him, perhaps another enemy would. The king sent him against the Solymi, fierce warriors who threatened Lycia. Once more, the order carried the shape of honor. Once more, it hid the hope of death. But Bellerophon was no longer the same man who had arrived with a sealed message. He had Pegasus. He had fame. He had the confidence of victory. He flew to battle. The Solymi fought bravely. Yet how could men on the ground face a warrior of the air? Bellerophon struck from above. He shattered their strength. And when he returned alive again, Iobates became more afraid. The gods, it seemed, were not finished with this stranger. Still Iobates did not stop. He sent Bellerophon against the Amazons. They were legendary warrior women, feared and admired across the Greek imagination. They lived beyond the ordinary boundaries of the Greek world. They rode, fought, and ruled with fierce independence. To send a hero against them was to send him toward a borderland of myth. Bellerophon went. Again Pegasus carried him above the field. Again the hero returned victorious. Each success made him greater. Each success also made the king's secret more dangerous. For a man who survives one impossible task may be fortunate. A man who survives many begins to look chosen. Iobates could no longer pretend that Bellerophon was merely lucky. Something divine moved with him. But one final attempt remained. Iobates chose another path. If monsters and armies could not kill Bellerophon, perhaps treachery could. He selected the strongest men of Lycia. He placed them in ambush. They waited in a narrow place. The plan was simple. When Bellerophon passed, they would strike together and overwhelm him. But fate had already turned against the king's design. Bellerophon discovered the trap. Pegasus moved like stormlight. The ambushers fell. Not one returned. The strongest men of Lycia were destroyed by the very hero they had been sent to murder. Now Iobates had no more excuses. The pattern was clear. The gods favored Bellerophon. To continue seeking his death would be to fight heaven itself. And even kings must sometimes bow before what they do not understand. At last, Iobates showed Bellerophon the letter. The sealed message he had carried from Pegasus was revealed. It had ordered his death. Bellerophon learned that his journey to Lycia had been a trap from the beginning. He had been condemned by a lie. Sent away by a king who dared not kill him. Tested again and again by another king who feared the law of hospitality. The truth might have filled him with rage. Perhaps it did. But Iobates now saw more than a dangerous guest. He saw a man protected by powers beyond human courts. So the king changed course. He honored Bellerophon. He gave him a share of royal power. In some tellings, he gave him his daughter in marriage. The stranger became family. The condemned man became heir. And for a time it seemed that suffering had led Bellerophon into glory. But myth is patient. It lets a hero rise high enough to see the shape of his own fall. Bellerophon became great in Lycia. He had slain the Chimera. He had defeated enemies. He had survived treachery. He had won honor, land, and marriage. Songs could have ended there. Many listeners might wish they did. A hero wronged by false accusation rises through courage. A monster dies. A kingdom is saved. A noble man is rewarded. But Greek myth rarely ends where comfort wants it to end. For the same force that carried Bellerophon upward began to change him. Victory has a sound. At first, it sounds like gratitude. Then, if a heart is not careful, it begins to sound like entitlement. Bellerophon had ridden where no ordinary mortal could ride. He had looked down upon kings, armies, and monsters. He had felt the world fall away beneath the wings of Pegasus. And perhaps, in time, earth no longer seemed enough. Pride in Greek myth is not simple confidence. It is not courage. It is not the joy of achievement. Pride becomes dangerous when a mortal forgets the boundary between human and divine. The Greeks called such overreaching hubris. Bellerophon had received help from the gods. Athena had given the bridle. Pegasus had carried him. Poseidon's shadow may have stood behind his birth. But divine favor is not the same as divine equality. The gods may lift a mortal. They may guide him. They may crown him with victory. But they do not welcome him as one of their own simply because he has succeeded. Bellerophon began to look upward. Not with reverence. With desire. The sky that had once been a gift became a road he wished to claim. And beyond that sky stood Olympus, the home of the deathless gods. At last, Bellerophon made the fatal choice. He mounted Pegasus and turned toward Olympus. He would rise beyond the world of men. He would climb the air itself. He would enter the realm of the gods. In that ascent, all his victories became dangerous. The Chimera had fallen. Armies had failed. Kings had yielded. Each success may have whispered the same lie. There is no height you cannot reach. Pegasus climbed. Clouds opened. The earth grew small beneath them. For a moment, Bellerophon seemed to approach the impossible once again. But this time, the impossible was not a monster sent to destroy a kingdom. It was the boundary of the universe. Mortals may be brave. Mortals may be beloved. Mortals may even be remembered among the stars. But Olympus was not his to seize. And Zeus saw him coming. Zeus did not need to hurl a mountain. He did not need to break the sky. He did not need to send a giant or a thunderbolt strong enough to burn the world. Sometimes the fall of pride begins with something small. Zeus sent a gadfly. A tiny creature. A sharp sting. It came toward Pegasus. The winged horse, startled and hurt, reared in the air. The rhythm of the wings broke. Bellerophon lost his hold. For all his victories, for all his courage, for all his fame, he was still mortal. His hand slipped. The sky turned. Olympus vanished above him. The earth rushed upward below. The hero who had risen on divine wings fell from heaven's road. Bellerophon fell. The fall was not only from the sky. It was from glory. From favor. From the belief that he could cross every boundary. Some versions say he survived the fall, but was crippled. Some say he wandered blind or broken. Some say he lived out his days alone, hated by the gods and avoiding the paths of men. The details shift. The sorrow remains. Pegasus did not fall with him. The winged horse continued upward. The creature born from Medusa's blood belonged to a different destiny. Bellerophon struck the earth and did not rise as he had before. There was no new task to win. No monster to defeat. No king to impress. The enemy now was consequence. And consequence is a monster no hero can slay with a spear. Pegasus rose beyond the failure of his rider. In later tradition, the winged horse reached the heavens. He came into the service of Zeus. He carried thunder and lightning for the king of the gods. What Bellerophon tried to claim through pride, Pegasus entered through divine order. The contrast is quiet, but powerful. The horse did not rebel against heaven. He served it. The hero who tried to force his way upward fell away from it. And so Pegasus became more than a mount in a hero's tale. He became a celestial being. A symbol of inspiration. A bridge between earth and sky. A reminder that not every ascent is theft. Some rising is granted. Some is earned. Some is forbidden. And wisdom lies in knowing the difference. Bellerophon's final days are among the loneliest in Greek myth. He had once flown above mountains. Now he wandered the earth. He had once heard the praise of kingdoms. Now he avoided the company of men. He had once fought monsters outside himself. Now he carried the ruin within. His story is not tragic because he failed from weakness. It is tragic because he had been strong. He had been brave. He had been favored. He had done real good in the world. The Chimera was not an illusion. Lycia truly needed saving. His victories mattered. But greatness does not make a mortal immune to error. In fact, greatness can make error louder. It can lift a man high enough that the fall becomes terrible. Bellerophon's life became a warning sung beside his glory. The Greeks remembered both. The hero who slew the Chimera. And the man who forgot he was not a god. The Chimera itself endured as more than a monster. A creature of lion, goat, and serpent. A body made of impossible parts. A breathing contradiction. In later imagination, the word chimera came to suggest something unreal. Something fantastical. Something assembled from fragments that should not belong together. But in Bellerophon's story, the chimera is very real. It is the first great danger. The visible monster. The beast everyone can name. Yet it is not the final enemy. That is the deep lesson of the myth. The monster outside the hero may be slain. The fire on the mountain may be put out. The kingdom may be saved. But the monster inside the hero may wake afterward. Pride can breathe fire too. And when it does, the battlefield is no longer a mountain in Lycia. It is the human soul. When we look at the night sky, Pegasus still shines there. The great winged horse spreads across the heavens. His stars form one of the most famous figures of the autumn sky. Near him are other mythic names. Andromeda, Perseus, Cepheus, Cassiopeia. Stories placed side by side in the dark. Bellerophon himself was not given the same honored place among the stars. That absence matters. The horse rose. The rider fell. The myth remembers him not with simple condemnation, but with sorrow. For Bellerophon was not born wicked. He was not a coward. He was not a false hero. He was a man who did great things, then mistook greatness for permission. His life asks a question that has never grown old. How high can a mortal rise without forgetting the earth? The answer is written in his fall. Courage may lift us. Victory may crown us. But wisdom must guide us, or the sky itself becomes dangerous. This is why Bellerophon endures. Not only as the slayer of the Chimera, not only as the rider of Pegasus, but as the hero who teaches that the greatest height is not always the highest place. Sometimes, it is knowing where to stop.